Dracula. This is the new Dracula movie that came out this weekend. Going into this movie, I didn't really have any high expectations for a couple reasons. For one, I don't think that this movie got a lot of marketing that I saw, and this movie is coming out Super Bowl weekend. So usually, when a movie like this comes out on a weekend that's kind of a dead weekend, doesn't have a lot of marketing, usually means it's not very. Also, as much as I don't have anything against the character of Dracula, I think he is a character like Robin Hood, where it's like, man, we have told this story so many times. What do you have new or interesting to say? And we'll get into that in a minute, but it kind of just like was like whatever. So, to my surprise, this was a pretty decent Dracula adaptation. Now, I'm not a big Dracula head, so I don't, you know. In fact, I'll just admit this right now. I have not seen very many of the Universal Monster movies. It is something I need to fix and deal with, but just hasn't happened, and I don't know why it hasn't happened. So this movie is a movie that I just kind of had no real expectations with, other than maybe it won't be very good. It was okay, but it's, you know, I think the issue with this movie is when there are things I enjoy about this movie. Like, I think actually the performances and the way the movie looks is pretty okay. It's a little too dark in a lot of sequences. I'm like, there's a difference of being dark because you're a horror movie, and then there's a difference between being dark because you're trying to cover up CGI and you can't see what's happening. That's kind of the vibe I got with this movie, because there's like these like gargoyle, like clay like figures, and they like are CG animated, but they look kind of stop motion esque. I kind of enjoyed them. I feel like maybe they're in a Dracula adaptation I haven't seen, because I haven't seen every Dracula adaptation, nor do I really care to. But you see, they're in this movie, and I like them, but like, you know, I feel like that was part of it. And then the other part of this movie is like, the whole time I get watching this, I just got bored at a certain point. And because I was like, this is just Nosferatu, which is ironic because if you know the story of Nosferatu, Nosferatu was a ripoff of Dracula, but they had to use a different name so that way they could get it through. So that's what Nosferatu was. It's a whole different thing. Um, so if you don't know that, Nosferatu is Dracula, just a knockoff of Dracula, but he's kind of gotten his own thing to him now because of how popular that original movie became and legendary it became. And you got Robert Eggers movie and stuff. But so when I watched this movie, I'm like, there's like a huge focus on this romance angle, very Nosferatu. I feel like there's a lot of scenes that were like kind of like trying to be very much like that movie. They were like sequences. I'm like, they're not shot for shot. They're different enough, but they're like close enough too to where I'm like, eh. So it just made me really bored and uninterested with this movie, because I'm like, if I wanted to gauge with this movie, I could just go home and watch Nosferatu, because I really like Nosferatu. And this movie is just not on that level, unfortunately. I did not care for this movie. So if you're a fan of Dracula and you're like a Dracula head, I do think you will get stuff out of it. There were some people actually at this theater, which is very shocking, by the way. They were dressed as Dracula, and not like Universal Monster Dracula, like the Dracula you see on the poster for this movie. Very shocked about that, but they were dressed up for this movie, and and I asked them, hey, did you guys like it? And they liked it. I didn't. Um, I didn't hate or anything, but I was like, yeah. So I think if you're a Dracula head, you might get something out of it. Everybody else, maybe you stream it, but honestly, just go watch Nosferatu, because that's what this movie wanted to be so bad.